This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
You're listening to Front Row with John Wilson.
That's the sound of Zora, an all-female orchestra from Afghanistan. Today its members are in hiding as the Taliban take control. I'll be talking to the founder of Afghanistan's only music school. Also on the show, the power of song to tell dramatic stories. We'll have live music from Dutch singing star Venda, who performs in a series of collaborative works by women writers at the Royal Court Theatre. And how the Manchester Collective are hoping to shake up the proms. The group's founder, Adam Szabo, is with us in the studio. But let's start in Afghanistan, where it is reported many music radio stations have fallen silent or changed their playlist since the Taliban took control of the capital, Kabul. The last time the Taliban were in power 20 years ago, music was banned, CDs destroyed, theatres closed, many artists were murdered. The creative community fears the worst. So earlier today I spoke to Dr. Ahmad Sarmast, founder and director of the Afghanistan National Institute of Music, which won the prestigious Polar Music Prize in 2018. He oversaw the training of hundreds of young Afghan musicians, many of them girls and young women, in recent years.
I established Afghanistan National Institute of Music in 2013 with number of objectives, which I may briefly identify as reviving Afghan musical traditions, transforming the lives of Afghan children, especially orphan, street-working children and girls through the transformative power of music, using the healing power of music to assist the Afghan people from the traumas of years of war, and building bridges between not only Afghanistan and the international community, but also to use the soft power of music to assist ethnically divided Afghanistan to be reunited.
So it's the unifying power of music, and it's about empowerment as well, I presume, because the orchestras and the classrooms that you oversaw, boys and girls together, and you had women-only orchestras as well.
Yes, I strongly believe in gender equality, and I also strongly believe in soft power of music. And we've been using the soft power of music not only to rebuild Afghanistan, but also to assist girls and women of Afghanistan who've been deprived from their all basic rights during the Taliban time, and also the group of people who still have been underrepresented in society and community and who still was facing many challenges.
And on an individual level, just give us a sense of the way that music has helped empower those people, how it has helped change those lives and society in Kabul and the communities from which those students have come.
I can give you many success stories that our child with no perspective, no access to education, thanks to the program of the Afghanistan National Institute of Music, she became the first female conductor in the history of music in Afghanistan. I can give you an example how a girl who was selling chewing gums on the streets of Kabul became the concert master of the Zora Orchestra. Or if I'm going to give you a bigger picture, the Zora Orchestra, the majority member of whom come from an orphanage as well as from working on the streets of background, become the symbol of emancipation of women and freedom of women in Afghanistan.
And people have heard that internationally as well. I know the Zora Orchestra travelled to Britain a couple of years ago. You played at the British Museum, I think, didn't you?
Yes, Zora Orchestra had the privilege and the honor to play in the most prestigious concert venues of the world, including at the closing ceremony of the World Economic Forum in 2017. They played at the British Museum. They played in the Sheldonian Music Hall in Oxford. But they also played in Portugal, India, Switzerland, and many other countries.
What are the prospects for the Afghanistan National Institute of Music now that the Taliban have taken control of the country?
If I would be considering the perspective of the Afghanistan National Institute of Music in light of what Taliban have done to music back in 1990s, I can immediately say that yes, there's no perspective for music and music education in Afghanistan.
None at all?
Not at all. But I'm an optimistic person, and I hope that the Taliban, the way that they represented themselves today and advocating, or at least giving some assurances for the gender equality, freedom of expression, I hope that they will be also respecting the musical rights of Afghan people.
That's a big hope, though, isn't it? I mean, the Taliban say that they are more moderate now. They're not so prescriptive about art and culture. Do you believe them?
Again, we have to see and compare their words with their action. A few months back, while there was a lot of talks that the Taliban changed, but we witnessed destruction of musical instruments, punishment of musicians in the areas under their control. But now that they're in the big cities, they're behaving much more moderate, much more civilized, and I hope that will continue.
Sure. This is a hugely worrying time, isn't it? No, not just for culture, art and culture and music in Afghanistan, but for those individuals, and particularly for your students. Are you in touch with those, and particularly those girls that you have brought through the classes?
Yes, I'm in touch with my faculty. I'm in touch with my students. I'm in touch with the security of the school. In the last 2 days, as the Taliban were penetrating the capital, Kabul, our students have been as fearful as the rest of the community, and they were staying in their houses. And we hope that if the situation is going to worsen, we would be able to safely relocate them outside Afghanistan somewhere.
Do you think that it is dangerous to be known, to be identified as a musician in Afghanistan at the moment, to own a musical instrument?
The fear exists there, but up until now, we do not have any evidence that can indicate that the musicians have been targeted in Afghanistan after the capture of the provinces and also the capital, Kabul. I'm in touch with a group of musicians in the city of Herat, Bamyan, and other places. There was no official announcement about the banning of music or limiting or imposing any censorship on music. But on the other hand, I'm receiving and collecting information that music slowly fading out from radio and TV station broadcasting. But again, I don't know, since I haven't seen any official statement or announcement of a policy towards arts, culture, and particular music. But
you've heard the stories, though. You've been told by people in Afghanistan that the music is, in effect, being switched off.
It is switched off in radio and TV station that they resume their activities, but sometimes it might be the caution of the owner of those TV stations just to make sure that there are no attack, or make sure that they are building a better relationship with the Taliban. Since self-censorship was always an issue in Afghanistan, and hopefully this is a self-censorship rather than an official policy of the Taliban.
Your life has been threatened in the past by the Taliban, or by more fundamental elements within Afghan society opposed to your promotion of music, haven't you?
Yes, I've been one attack in 2014 by a suicide bomber when a concert of my students have been targeted, and the bomber was sitting right behind my back. And also there were two other unsuccessful attempts to organize attack on the school, but fortunately those plans or plots have been discovered by the security forces of the country.
Dr. Sarmast, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
It's Dr. Ahmad Sarmast, founder and director of the Afghanistan National Institute of Music, talking to me, by the way, from Australia, where he holds an academic post. You know that feeling. It could be provoked by a moment of intense joy or huge worry or devastating loss, when the only way of making sense of things is to listen to music or to hear somebody singing, Well, that's the thinking behind a new theatre show called The Song Project, in which some of Britain's leading women playwrights have teamed up with composer Isabel Wallerbridge and Dutch singing star Venda to create a series of dramatic scenarios exploring birth, death, motherhood, ageing and other issues. The Song Project will run at the Royal Court Theatre in London over 10 nights from tomorrow. It was conceived by Chloe Lamford, who is with me now, as is singer Venda, who will be performing a song for us in a moment. Welcome to you both.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Chloe, the concept, I know this is your idea, your concept. How did it come about? What is the idea that only, why the idea that only some things can be expressed through song?
Well, I met Venda in Holland working with her a few years ago, and we started exploring the idea of placing concerts in theatres or taking theatrical storytelling on music into concert or to club venues.
Right.
So we kind of had started this thinking, and we went to Vicky Featherstone at the Royal Court and had a big conversation with her about kind of how could we try and do a project like that with the Royal Court Theatre. And we kind of created a collective of female writers.
So there are 6 playwrights.
5 playwrights.
5 playwrights, all taking different aspects of life and experience and worry and hate and joy and loss and all those things. And what they are then writing the lyrics for Venda to sing.
Yeah, that's right. So Venda and Isabel Wallerbridge have created the music for the songs together, and we've worked a lot with the writers developing the songs. We started off by having a lot of conversations as a collective, and then the writers would go away and they'd kind of bring things back to us that then we'd create music and send it back to them. So there's kind of an incredible process to the whole thing of kind of how we built it together.
This is really collaborative then, isn't it? And Venda, for you, because I know you're a big singing star in the Netherlands, but you're writing your own songs normally as well.
Yeah, but I collaborate a lot also in Holland. Actually, I started also when I was working with Chloe, working with writers of literature, and asked them, like, what if you didn't have a book but a song? What would you write? So I've been writing my own songs, but I've been collaborating already a lot because, but
you don't normally work with playwrights, though, do you?
No. So that became a plan when you, Chloe, was an associate of the Royal Court, and she said, "Well, we have such amazing writers. We should get a group together and ask them, what if you didn't have a play but a song? What would you want us?"
And which playwrights, Chloe? Just give us some of the people that you're working with.
We've been writing with Evie Crow. We've been working with Debris Stevenson, Sabrina Mahfouz, Somalia Seaton and Steph Smith.
Some of the most exciting young playwrights working at the moment. But what I meant, Venda, is it must be different. These people are usually writing very different, for speech, for dialogue, very different rhythm at work. Do the songs sound different as a result, do you think?
Well, we had a lot of conversation of what a song actually is, but because a lot of them didn't write a song ever. So it was really interesting also for me to give my knowledge about what is the use of a chorus, what is a verse, how does a verse look, why does it need to be rhymed, what is rhythm for words, how much do you leave out because the music is doing that. And it was a really good conversation about also what is a song.
And are these individual vignettes, scenarios that are played out on stage, or is there a
They're all different.
Narrative that runs through?
They're all different, and I think some are quite conceptual, some are really like a memory, some are like a moment, some are a feeling. They kind of inhabit all different personas and genres.
Yeah, but in talking about what a concert should be in a theatrical sense of the word, is that the songs stand on they are their own world, but putting them together in a sequence, they tell a whole story, which is like not song, applause, but they all connect to each other and make one big story.
So it's a bigger dramatic experience. We're going to extract one song now and imagine how that plays out in the bigger scenario. You're here also in the studio with your accompanist at the piano, Niels Davidse, and you're going to be singing, what is this song?
Where Are You Gonna Go?
When Are You Gonna Go? Take it away.
They watched on as it happened, you giving up your soul for the comfort of their habit. I feel you feel it deep in your chest. Now all that carrying needs to be laid to rest. 'Cause where you gonna go when the need bleeds dry? When you're ready to be seen, but there's nothing left to feel. Where you gonna go when the need bleeds dry? They'll swear it isn't as you tell it, though your body it remembers. It hurts like hell, you say. Those sweet smiles you gave, it burned the inside of your mortal friend. Set it on fire, burn the broken ways, burn that broken face. 'Cause where you gonna go when the need bleeds dry? When you're ready to be seen, but there's nothing left to feel. Where you gonna go when the need bleeds dry? You're divine.
Venda's singing Where You Gonna Go by Somalia Nonye Seaton with Niels Devisay at the piano. There is a real, I mean, that's not just a standard song. There's a slight spoken word moment in there. So there is a theatricality, which I guess is different to your normal repertoire, isn't it?
Well, no, it's actually, I am a storyteller on music. I really make music where the words are the most important vehicle to get towards a feeling and to get towards catharsis and to get towards like insight or confrontation or, you know, so for me words are essential.
Right, and this was familiar to, I mean, even working with Isabel Waller-Bridge, who's bringing melodies in as a composer and collaborating with her, but this felt like familiar territory.
Yeah, I began with the French chanson, so that is really storytelling on music, like in its root. And then we just developed this, and now we've got this project, which is really amazing because in England, the storytelling on music has a different tradition than the one that is in Holland, and to combine my knowledge with the huge, like, rich language and storytelling of England has really like enriched me, but also like learned me a lot about what storytelling on music can be.
And Chloe, as Venda was saying just before she sang the song, each song stands alone as a vignette, as a narrative, but is building a bigger kind of story, a bigger tapestry is being woven throughout the evening. Just tell us something about what happens within that one, which is written by Somalia Nonye Seaton, the playwright, the narrative that's being played out there.
Well, it's really about talking to a younger version of yourself, isn't it? It's
I think we curated this song to her because we have been talking a lot about transgenerational trauma and what's been passed on from your grandmother and the people that came before you, and what you can let go to become somebody who blooms of herself or himself. And then what do you pass on? And we asked Somalia, like, what would you sing to your younger self if you were freed of that weight of carrying everything that's been given to you?
And Chloe, this is a theatrical evening that you're promising. You've conceived this. You work as a designer as well, so and you're working with choreographers as well. So it's not just Venda standing on the stage with Niels at the piano, a series of songs.
No, we have 4 musicians, and we've created a particular environment where the audience kind of surround the musicians. They're almost in a clump in the middle. So it sort of feels like you're really kind of drawn into the music and drawn into the musicians playing together. They really kind of look across to each other. So we've worked really hard on kind of creating a really particular atmosphere to how you kind of feel the songs and what you lean into. So that part's been really exciting to explore.
Fantastic. A truly collaborative project. Thanks very much indeed to Chloe Lamford and to Venda and to Niels at the piano as well. Good to say. I mean, it's so good to have live music back in the front row studio. I mean, it must be amazing to be back on a stage for you, Venda, as well.
It's amazing. I mean, it's such a joy and privilege to be doing this. Thank you so much.
Well, the song project starts at the Royal Court tomorrow. It runs until the end of August. The world of professional classical music is not diverse, it's not inclusive. The systems that govern classical music are not fit for purpose. Those are the words of a musician who tomorrow night will lead a performance at the most revered classical institution of them all, the BBC Proms. Adam Szabo set up the Manchester Collective with the avowed aim of attracting more diverse audiences with a broader range of musical repertoire that takes risks by putting lesser-known and new works alongside the classics of the canon. Here's a taste of what they'll be bringing to the Proms. That's the Manchester Collective with a recording of Edmund Finnis's The Centre is Everywhere, one of the pieces that they will be performing in the Royal Albert Hall tomorrow night. It will be the Collective's first appearance at the Proms, and they're playing a pretty mixed programme that combines past and present with a contemporary homage to Rameau. There's also jazz harpsichord concerto among the pieces. The group's founder, Adam Szabo, is here with me in the studio. Adam, was it? I mean, I quoted you there in the introduction. I know you were standing outside the studio. We had to do some very careful choreography because of social distancing still here in the studio, so you may not have heard what I said. But I was suggesting that you've been quite confrontational. Was it your frustration as a working classical musician, as a cellist, that drove you to start the Manchester Collective?
Yeah, I think that's fair, John. I mean, there's so much wonderful music, available to be performed and to be listened to. And so I think Raki, my co-founder, and I both really did feel that it was a bit of a nonsense that out of that incredible repertoire we would play such a narrow slice,
Yeah, I don't know if you heard what I said, but I said the systems that govern professional classical music are not fit for purpose. That's pretty confrontational stuff, given that you're playing at the Proms tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's very easy for classical music and for any art form to be about the past because we are in an industry with an incredible wealth of repertoire, all the wonderful plays or novels or pieces of music that have been written. And we never set out to be a new music ensemble at all. We were founded to play music, but I suppose along the way what we found was that if you're going to try and put together shows that are really vital and feel contemporary and fresh, then working with artists who are not dead is sort of a helpful thing to do. And so I think in this concert, at the Proms tomorrow, the fact that we have Dobrinka Tabakova in the audience, we have Ed at the rehearsals, Ed Finnis, who I think the piece that we just played a snatch of, we commissioned from Ed in 2019.
Beautiful piece that, by the way.
Yeah, it's really special to us. And I think the pieces start to become about more than just the dots on the page. It's like working with a band who are actually touring. It's not just about the sort of sound waves. It's about the relationship that you have to the music, the relationship that the composers have to the musicians.
So we're going to be hearing that attitude at the Proms as well. So it's not just about bringing different musical forms and combining the past and the present, but I mean, do we get a different attitude and setup on stage? Actually, one thing I was going to ask you about, you're amplifying it, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Which is still such a no-no for huge swathes of the classical community.
I don't know. I think that's a bit silly, really. I mean, there's a small number of us, and we're in a crazy building. I think you wouldn't see a 4-piece band set up at the Albert Hall without amplification. And I think, what we try and do with all of our shows is to create music that has a big emotional impact for the audience. And part of that, I think, is a big sound, especially at this point where we haven't been to gigs for 18 months. No one has stood in front of a big PA for nearly 2 years, and you forget what that feels like to be, hearing kind of an amazing DJ set or a full symphony orchestra. That big sound is really important. The other thing is that Ed's work in particular is so much about silence and the gaps between the music as it is about the notes. And so by amplifying that piece, The Centre is Everywhere, what we get to do is so the people right at the back of the hall can hear these microscopic sounds, almost like white noise, that you wouldn't hear if it was an acoustic performance.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at the Proms on Saturday night. The Philharmonia were playing Prokofiev, Shostakovich. And, to me, having not been at a classical concert for a long time, for a couple of years, it was too quiet. I'd forgotten that, actually, you've really got to strain to listen. Just tell me about, there's another piece that you're playing, Julius Eastman, a composer who, a really interesting minimalist composer from New York in the sort of 60s and 70s. I'd never heard of him, but, fantastic stuff that I found on Spotify today.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these funny things where it's simultaneously very exciting and also deeply sad that it's the first time that any work of Julius Eastman's will be played at the Proms Festival. He was a black composer, he was an openly gay composer, and I guess he didn't easily fit into the mold of what, you know, we expected from a sort of New York-based contemporary minimalist composer in the 60s and the 70s. He was homeless for 5 years before he died.
Living in Tompkins Park.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know, and this was after he'd been nominated for a Grammy. So he recorded with like Maxwell Davies. He was like an important musical figure. And it's very exciting now that we're part of this big sort of reappraisal of his work that is happening. The music itself is like rock and roll. You know, the riff that this piece, The Holy Presence of Joan of Arc, is based on is from a Patti Smith song. So
he based it on the Patti Smith song.
It is the riff from the Patti Smith. So it's not like, oh, it's an homage. Like, it's the notes, you know. And so it was funny, we did a dry run for this show last night in Manchester. And, you know, it's not easy music to listen to. But the people that I talked to at the end of the gig who really got a kick out of it were like the rock and roll guys who are like, oh my God, yeah, this is Zappa, you know, and it's in that idiom. And so the fact that piece can sit side by side with, you know, Mahanes Vahani playing a harpsichord concerto.
Fantastic.
You know, that I think that's really exciting.
So do you think this is your moment? I mean, you're coming in with these fresh ideas. You know, you're not being confrontational, but you are asking a bit more of the establishment, really, and saying we could do things differently. And this is the moment to kind of reset, rethink, and start again in a way.
I think it's a moment. Look, I was listening to Abel Solauche's prom last night, you know, another brilliant concert like African folk music with BBC National Orchestra of Wales. There's great stuff that is sort of happening, and there's sort of something in the air at the moment, I think. And so...
But what about the audiences? Because I know that's one of your... You have almost a manifesto, you know, on your Manchester Collective website, what you set out to achieve. And one of those things is bringing new audiences in, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, you know, the way that things have kind of developed over the last kind of 50 years in the world of classical music is that it's very easy for us to be doing our jobs and not always be particularly thinking about the audience, actually, and what it might feel like to come to the Albert Hall or the Wigmore Hall or the Barbican for the first time and sit in front of a symphony orchestra, you know, have 80 people in tails and frocks in front of you. No one says anything to you. You know, you kind of, these are like codified like rituals and traditions, which, you know, we accept because for, you know, if you're in that world, then it's like, you know, being religious and going to church. You sort of get it.
But it doesn't have to be like that.
But it doesn't have to be like that.
We're going to have to leave it there. Adam Sabo of the Manchester Collective. Great talking to you. Thanks very much, Adam, performing with the Collective at the Proms in the Royal Albert Hall tomorrow night. And on tomorrow night's Front Row, we'll be live from the downsized Edinburgh Festival with music from Orcadian folk band Farah. But we'll leave you with some more music from female students of the Afghanistan National Institute of Music, the Zora Orchestra. And this was recorded at the British Museum in London 2 years ago. Thanks for listening to Front Row this evening, presented by me, John Wilson. With me here in the studio in Broadcasting House were producer Julian May and studio manager Sue Mayo. If you'd like to download Front Row as a podcast series, head to BBC Sounds.
Want the high-stakes stuff? The believe the hype stuff? The criminally good, emotional roller coaster, can't believe what you're seeing stuff? You know, the good stuff. AMC Plus has it all. Can't wait for the beginning of the end? Watch all new episodes of The Walking Dead 1 week early. Want to be chilled to the core? Set sail with The North Water, a thrilling Arctic drama starring Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell. Plus, uncover gripping true crime content ad-free and on demand. Expect the epic with AMC Plus. Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.